months, I believe, of being in 4 years. The aviation engineers, they help airplanes fly. And our job, the 836 Aviation Engineers, we built airplane runways to escort the fighter planes to help and protect the bombers. And so we were moving all the time ahead of the bombers because to new islands in order so that the fighter planes could come in there because they couldn't fly very well. That is, they didn't have no long distance like the bombers did. And so consequently, we would build all kinds of runways. We made them out of asphalt, we made them out of coral out of the ocean, and packed it down and let it get hard. I was first on heavy equipment, like grading roads that is, grading roads with a road grader and grading asphalt and grading coral. We'd level it down. And then later, I got into motor pool, and all I had 45 truck drivers, and my job was to keep the trucks running. When they broke down, I had mechanics that would fix them, and I was going after parts. And so that was, sometimes I'd steal parts off of the Japanese trucks that we'd taken over, and I'd rob spark plugs and brakes and springs off of them, and they'd fit because they was U.S. made. And so consequently, that was my job. If they wouldn't have had the aviation engineers, they couldn't have built runways for the fighter planes. They were the little light planes, the P-38s and P-39s especially. And I knew we was doing some good. Oh yes, we was doing good. And fighter, when we got a runway ready to go, well, here come the fighter planes. They'd telephone them in, and there'd be a half a dozen of them that come in and light right there, and they was on call then. When the enemy come in at night, they was in the air. They was going. It was very important. Because I put down what I could do. I come off of the farm, and my skills, where I had no education, my skills, I could work on machinery, and I was a good truck driver, though. I could be a truck driver. And in those skills, I got to be I studied diesel. We took diesel motors apart, and we went to an asphalt paving school. They picked about 10 of us, and I was one of them that was picked. Of course, I loved the motor pool. That suited me just fine. And because I knew about motors, and I knew about pickups, and I knew about Jeeps, and I knew about trucks, and I went to that school also. We went to Australia, and we was only there about 2 weeks. We went to Brisbane and never got off the ship there, but up at Brisbane, and we went to New Guinea. And then New Guinea is a pretty big island, and so we went to Lae, Nadzab, and there's a big Japanese hospital there we had to capture. And then the Dutch East Indies was right there, fastened on the part of New Guinea. And we went to Admiralty Islands, and then we went to islands that they aren't even on the map. Wakdi and some of those islands, they have a name, but then you can't find them on the map. And I wound up there, then I wound up, with all of that took time. 6 months here and 4 months there, 3 months, and the time rolled by, and then we went to the Philippines. But we slowly went to the Philippines, at Luzon. Manila's the big capital, and Nichols Field was bleeding. He'd been shot through the wrist, and I didn't even see it. There was a sniper up in the tree. And knew we was going to go on Japan and invade the island. That was it. Hiroshima and Nagasaki, when they were bombed, of course, that about put an end to it, because that really just devastated things. And when we went to just before we got off of the boat at Japan, before we arrived at Japan, about a day, why the armistice was signed. Why General MacArthur, he signed the peace treaty and the Japanese surrendered. And so then we went on into Japan, and I must have been in Japan. Oh, we were cleaning up the place and taking over different things and stocking Japanese guns up so that they wouldn't use them anymore, and everything that went with that, with policing the area. I guess that's what you would call that. Must have been there about 3 months, 4 months, somewhere in there. And then I had my 80 points at that time. Some of them had to stay longer than that, but I had my 80 points. And so I got on a boat and came home. Got the Bronze Star, and there was 2 of them given in our battalion. And you'll say, why did I get a Bronze Star? That issued 2 of them out of a battalion of 800 or 900. Why did I get a Bronze Star? My company, C Company, kept more trucks off of deadline. Deadline means they weren't broke down. I kept more trucks running than any other than headquarters or A and B Company. And I'd done that by stealing parts off of Japanese vehicles. Yes, we had training, but you have to admit that we all worked together. They couldn't fly the planes without